My name is Nonna Luciana Ferraro, and I'm 81 years old. Right now, I'm sitting in a nursing home called Casa di Riposo Madonna della Misericordia in Perugia, Italy. And I need to tell you something that's been eating me alive for months. I'm not here because I'm sick. I'm not here because I can't take care of myself. My mind is sharp as it's ever been. I still do the crossword puzzle from the newspaper every morning without help. I still embroider without glasses. I can still remember phone numbers from 40 years ago. But I'm here in this hallway that smells like artificial lavender and loneliness, because the person I love most in this world threw me away like old furniture that doesn't fit the decor anymore. She tells me she's sorry at least once a week. Usually when the guilt hits her about putting me in that nursing home. I tell her there's nothing to forgive, that she did what she thought was right, that love sometimes makes terrible decisions. Then I remind her that I'm the one who should apologize for all the hateful thoughts I had, all the cruel words I planned to say, all the bitterness I let poison my heart. We forgive each other over and over, like a ritual, like a sacrament. Maybe that's what families are supposed to do. Keep forgiving. Keep choosing each other. Keep building bridges even after the walls have been torn down. I'm 81 years old, and I've lived through more grief than most people should have to bear. I've buried a husband, a daughter, both my parents, most of my friends. I've survived wars and poverty, and loss after loss after loss. But I'm still here, still breathing, still capable of joy and love and hope. And my granddaughter, who was supposed to be dead by now, according to the statistics and predictions, is still here too. Still fighting, still dreaming, still making plans for a future that every medical chart said she wouldn't have. That's the miracle. Not just the inexplicable stabilization of cancer that should have killed her by now, though that's miraculous enough, but the miracle of being given the chance to be together, to forgive, to love each other properly in the time we have left. If you're going through something similar, if you've been separated from someone you love by misunderstanding, or fear, or pride, or pain, I'm telling you this story as a sign. Don't wait for a mystical vision. Don't wait for a doctor's phone call or a crisis that forces your hand. Do it now, today, this minute. Call them, visit them. Ask them what's really going on. Tell them you love them, even if they've hurt you, especially if they've hurt you. Because sometimes hurt is just love that doesn't know how to express itself. Sometimes cruelty is just fear wearing a mask. Sometimes abandonment is just protection gone wrong. You might be wrong. You might reach out and discover that the person who hurt you really is just cruel or indifferent. But you might reach out and discover what I discovered, that beneath the surface of what looked like heartless rejection was actually heartbreaking love, making terrible choices out of good intentions. Either way, you'll know. You'll have the truth instead of assumptions. You'll have tried instead of giving up. You'll have chosen love and openness over bitterness and walls. I look at Alessia now, sitting in the garden, with the winter sun on her face, her wig slightly crooked, her smile tired but real. and I thank God and Carlo Acutis for the 100th time today. Thank you for not letting us die separated. Thank you for the intervention that saved 2 lives, hers from lonely death, mine from poisonous grief. Thank you for miracles both medical and emotional. Thank you for time. This is my testimony. This is my witness. This is the truth I need to share before my own time runs out. Don't wait. Don't assume. Don't let pride or fear or hurt build walls that might never come down. Go to them. Ask the questions. Demand the truth. Build the bridges. Choose love. Because life is short and death is certain. And the time we have with the people we love is the only real treasure we ever possess. My name is Nonna Luciana Ferraro. I'm 81 years old. I almost lost my granddaughter to cancer and to misunderstanding. But a teenage saint who loved the Eucharist reached across the veil between heaven and earth and gave us both a second chance. Don't waste yours. Before I continue, I'm really curious. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you're finding value in this story, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep sharing these experiences with all of you. After the hurt came the anger. Oh, the anger. It grew inside me like a tumor, spreading into every part of my being. I became someone I didn't recognize. The other residents here tried to be friendly at first. There's a woman named Francesca who invited me to the watercolor class. Another named Rosa who asked me to sit with her at meals. I pushed them all away with sharp words and cold shoulders. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want their companionship. I wanted my granddaughter to walk through that door and explain herself. And I wanted to unleash every bit of venom I'd been storing up. I stopped participating in any activities. I ate alone in my room or in the corner of the dining hall, where nobody could see the tears I sometimes couldn't control. I lost weight, 9 kilograms in 3 months, because food tasted like ashes in my mouth. Part of me wanted to waste away, wanted Alessia to eventually show up and see what she'd done to me, see the physical evidence of her cruelty. At night, lying in that narrow bed that wasn't mine, in a room that smelled wrong, surrounded by sounds that weren't the familiar creaks and sighs of my real home, I'd plan what I'd say when she finally appeared. I'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. I'd tell her she was ungrateful, heartless, a disgrace to the family name. I'd tell her that her mother would be ashamed of her. I'd tell her that I wished I'd never sacrificed everything for her, that I should have spent my money and energy on myself, instead of on someone who'd grow up to be so cold. The bitterness became my constant companion. I fed it and nurtured it, and let it grow until there was barely room for anything else inside me. I stopped saying my prayers. What was the point? God had let my daughter die young, had let my husband die and leave me alone. And now he'd let my granddaughter break my heart. I was done asking for help from heaven. 4 months I lived like this. 4 months of rage and grief and loneliness so profound it felt like drowning in slow motion. The staff at the nursing home started to worry about me. I overheard 2 nurses talking about how I was declining, how I might need to see a psychiatrist. That almost made me laugh. A psychiatrist? Like my problem was in my head, and not in the very real fact that I'd been abandoned by the only person I had left to love. Then came the night of October 12th. 3 weeks ago now, though it feels like a lifetime. I'm going to tell you something, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy. You're going to think the grief and anger had finally broken my mind, that I'd lost touch with reality like the staff feared. But I swear to you on my daughter's grave, on everything holy, what I'm about to tell you is the absolute truth. I woke up at 2:51 in the morning. I know the exact time because I looked at the clock on my nightstand, annoyed that something had disturbed my sleep. At my age, good sleep is precious, and I get little enough of it without interruptions. But there was someone sitting in the armchair in the corner of my room, a young man, maybe 15, 16 years old. He was wearing a worn-out hoodie and jeans, and he had a rosary in his hands. The strange thing was, I wasn't afraid. You'd think I'd be terrified, waking up to find a stranger in my room in the middle of the night. But instead, I felt this strange sense of calm, of recognition almost, though I'd never seen him before in my life. He said my name, Nonna Luciana. His voice was soft, warm, like someone wrapping you in a blanket. And then he told me he'd come to tell me what Alessia didn't have the courage to say herself. My heart started pounding then, that old heart that's beat for 81 years, through joy and sorrow, through births and deaths, through everything life has thrown at me. I asked him who he was, how he'd gotten into my room, what he was talking about. But he just leaned forward, and I could see his face more clearly in the dim light from the hallway, and he told me his name was Carlo Acutis. Now I know that name. Every Catholic in Italy knows that name. Carlo Acutis was the teenager who died of leukemia back in 2006. The one who loved the Eucharist and created that website cataloging Eucharistic miracles around the world. He was beatified in 2020. He's on his way to being declared a saint. But he died before Alessia was even born. He's been dead for almost 20 years. So either I was having a very vivid dream, or hallucinating, or something impossible was happening in my nursing home room. He told me that Alessia hadn't abandoned me. He said she was dying. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart in their fist. I tried to speak, tried to tell him he was wrong, that Alessia was young and healthy and strong, but no sound came out. He explained it all to me, this boy saint sitting in my room in the middle of the night. Alessia had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer in April, just 2 months before she put me in this place, stage 4 with metastasis. The doctors had given her 10 months to live, maybe less. She hadn't told me because she didn't want me to watch her die. I started to cry then, ugly crying, the kind that makes your whole body shake. I tried to tell him it wasn't true, that it couldn't be true, that my Alessia was fine. but he kept talking in that gentle voice, and he told me something that made everything suddenly, horribly make sense. He reminded me of how my own mother had died of cancer when I was in my 50s, how I'd watched her waste away over 6 months, watched the vibrant woman who raised me turn into a skeleton in a hospital bed, how the trauma of witnessing her suffering had been so severe that I'd collapsed in the hospital corridor and had to be admitted myself for 3 days, my blood pressure so high they thought I might have a stroke, my mind so broken by grief that I couldn't speak or eat. Alessia had been 14 years old then. She'd seen the whole thing, her grandmother falling apart, being carried away on a stretcher, the doctors saying I might not survive the shock. And he told me she'd heard me in my delirium, heard me screaming over and over that I couldn't watch, that I couldn't see it, that they had to make it stop. She'd never forgotten that. She'd carried it with her all these years, the memory of how watching someone she loved die from cancer had nearly killed me too. And when she got her own diagnosis, when she found out she was going to die the same way, she'd made a decision. She wouldn't put me through that again. She'd rather have me hate her while she died than have me love her and be destroyed by watching her go. That's why she'd put me here. That's why she'd paid for 18 months in advance, because that's how long the doctors, being optimistic, thought she might have. That's why she hadn't visited, hadn't called, hadn't written back. She was in Siena, in an experimental treatment program, undergoing brutal chemotherapy that was destroying her body. She'd lost all her hair, lost 18 kilograms, was vomiting blood after every session. She didn't want me to see her like that. She wanted me to remember her healthy and whole, not as a walking corpse. Carlo Acutis told me that she needed me. Not my anger, not my bitterness, but me. My lap to rest her head on, my arms to hold her, my forgiveness for the choice she'd made. He said that in the morning I'd receive a phone call from her oncologist, a Dr. Martina Conti, who couldn't stand keeping the secret anymore. He told me to answer the call, to listen, and then to go to her. Then he touched my hand, and I felt this warmth, this heat that seemed to go straight through to my bones. And he was gone. Just gone. The chair was empty. The room was silent except for my ragged breathing and the distant sound of someone's television down the hall. That person is my granddaughter, Alessia. And 4 months ago, she abandoned me here without looking back. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm just another bitter old woman making myself the victim, exaggerating some family disagreement into a tragedy. But let me tell you the whole story, and you can judge for yourself whether what happened to me was fair, or whether I had every right to feel the way I felt. Alessia wasn't just my granddaughter. She was my whole life. You see, I raised her from the time she was 6 years old, after my daughter, her mother, died from pneumonia. It was sudden, brutal. 1 week my beautiful Sarah had a cold. The next week she was in the hospital struggling to breathe, and 10 days later she was gone. Alessia's father, my son-in-law, he couldn't handle it. The grief broke him into pieces, and instead of being there for his daughter, he just disappeared. Literally. Left one morning and we never heard from him again. So there I was, a widow myself for already 15 years, suddenly the only family this little 6-year-old girl had left in the world. I became mother and grandmother at the same time. I woke up at 5 in the morning to make her breakfast before school. I braided her hair and packed her lunch and helped her with homework. When she was older, I taught her how to embroider the tablecloths for her hope chest, the way my own grandmother taught me. When she stayed up until midnight studying for university entrance exams, I sat right there at the kitchen table with her, making coffee, quizzing her on dates and formulas. I didn't understand, but memorized anyway, just to help her. When she got accepted to study architecture at the university in Florence, I sold every piece of jewelry I owned. My wedding ring, my mother's gold bracelet, the pearl earrings my husband gave me on our 20th anniversary. I sold it all to pay her tuition. I didn't think twice about it. What did I need with jewelry when I had Alessia's future to secure? She graduated with honors. I was so proud, I cried for 3 days straight. She came back to Perugia and opened a small architecture office, and we lived together in the house that belonged to my grandmother, the house where I'd lived my entire life. I took care of the garden, growing tomatoes and basil and roses. She worked at the kitchen table, spreading out her blueprints and sketches, biting her pencil when she concentrated. It was our perfect symphony, you know. Her youth and my experience, her ambition and my stability, her future and my past, all woven together in that old house. We had our routines. Sunday mornings we'd walk to church together, then stop at the bakery for sfogliatelle. Tuesday evenings she'd read her project proposals out loud to me while I cooked dinner, and I'd give her my opinion, even though I didn't understand half the technical terms. Thursday afternoons I'd embroider while she sketched, both of us working with our hands in comfortable silence. We were happy. I was happy. I thought she was happy too. Then came June of this year. Alessia came home one evening with papers in her hand and eyes that wouldn't meet mine. She sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals and conversations, and she told me she'd found a wonderful place for me, a beautiful facility, she said. Many women my own age, she said. Activities and professional care, she said. I remember staring at her, not understanding what she meant at first. I told her I didn't need any place. I was fine right here, in my own home, with her. I wasn't sick. I wasn't confused. I could take care of myself and help take care of her too. But she just kissed my forehead. Not a real kiss, not like the kisses we used to share, but this cold, distant thing. And she said it was better this way. She said I'd make friends. She said I'd be happier. 5 days later I was here, in this room with its narrow bed and thin blankets that smell like someone else's laundry detergent. In this building where the hallways echo with the sounds of other people's televisions and other people's loneliness. And Alessia never came back. The first few weeks, I couldn't believe it was real. I kept thinking there must be some mistake, some misunderstanding. I called her cell phone 50 times. She never answered. I called her office. Her assistant said she was in meetings. She'd call me back. She never did. I wrote letters by hand, my arthritic fingers cramping around the pen, pouring out my confusion and hurt onto paper. I mailed them to our house, my house, the house I'd lived in for 60 years. They came back unopened. I asked the director of the nursing home how much Alessia had paid. The woman looked uncomfortable, but finally told me. 18 months in advance. 18 months! Like she was buying me a prison sentence. Like she was making sure I'd be locked away good and long. The director said my granddaughter had been very generous. Generous. That word made me want to spit. You want to know what happens to a person when they realize they've been thrown away? I'll tell you. First comes the confusion, the desperate search for reasons. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something to offend her? Did I become too much of a burden without realizing it? I went over every conversation we'd had in the months before she sent me here, looking for clues, for the moment when I'd lost her love. I couldn't find it. We'd been fine. We'd been us. Then comes the hurt. Deep, crushing hurt that sits on your chest like a stone. I'd given this girl everything. 60 years of my life had been devoted to my family. First to my husband and daughter, then to Alessia alone. My youth, my middle age, my golden years, all of it poured into making sure she had what she needed. I'd sacrificed my own comfort, my own desires, my own life, really, to give her the best chance at hers. And this was my reward? To be warehoused with strangers, to be visited by nobody, to be forgotten while I was still breathing. I sat up in bed, shaking, my mind reeling. Was it real? Was it a dream? But I was completely awake now, sitting in the dark, my cheeks wet with tears, my heart hammering. I looked at the clock. 3:15. I'd lost track of time while he was speaking. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in my bed watching the window slowly lighten from black to gray to pale pink as dawn came. Everything he'd said kept repeating in my mind. Alessia dying. Alessia in pain. Alessia making this impossible choice to save me from grief by making me hate her instead. And me, stupid, bitter old woman that I was, falling right into it, spending 4 months cultivating poison in my heart while she suffered alone. At 6 o'clock the chapel bells rang, like they do every morning. I got up, washed my face, got dressed. I moved like a sleepwalker, going through the motions while my mind spun in circles. Part of me still thought I must have dreamed it all. Part of me knew, deep in my bones the way only a mother or grandmother can know, that it was true. At 8:37, the phone in the hallway rang. I heard it from my room and felt my whole body go cold. The nurse came to get me a moment later, told me I had a call. I walked to the phone on legs that barely supported me, picked up the receiver with hands that shook so badly I almost dropped it. The voice on the other end was a woman, professional but emotional. She identified herself as Dr. Martina Conti, oncologist at Santa Maria della Scala Hospital in Siena. She said she'd been treating Alessia for 6 months. She was calling without Alessia's permission, she said, because her medical conscience couldn't take it anymore. She told me that Alessia was in critical condition, that the cancer had spread to her liver and lungs, that she was stage 4 and failing. She told me the same thing Carlo had told me, that Alessia had put me in the nursing home, not out of cruelty, but out of misguided love, trying to spare me from watching her die the way I'd watched my mother die. But she said Alessia was crying out for me during her pain episodes, whispering my name in her morphine-induced sleep. She needed me, the doctor said, even if she'd never admit it. She begged me to come, told me not to mention the phone call, just to show up. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered against the wall, still dangling by its cord. The nurse grabbed my arm, asked if I was all right. I wasn't. I couldn't breathe. The hallway was spinning. Everything I'd felt for the past 4 months, all that rage, all that hurt, all that bitter satisfaction I'd taken in my own suffering, it all turned to ash in my mouth. I went to the director's office and told her I needed to leave immediately. Family emergency. She tried to tell me about procedures, about checking out properly, but I didn't care. I called a taxi from the office phone, spent half my monthly pension on that single trip, 120 kilometers from Perugia to Siena, and I didn't care about that either. Money meant nothing. Pride meant nothing. All that mattered was getting to my granddaughter. The drive took forever. Every curve in the road felt like an eternity. Every red light was torture. I kept thinking about all the time I'd wasted being angry. 4 months I could have been with her, helping her, holding her, and instead I'd been festering in my own self-righteousness, planning cruel words to say to her. Santa Maria della Scala Hospital, Oncology Ward. I asked at the reception desk for Alessia Ferraro. The receptionist looked at her computer, then at me, then asked who I was. I told her I was the grandmother, the only family Alessia had. The woman's face filled with pity, that particular look people get when they know something terrible that you're about to find out. And she gave me the room number. 318. I rode the elevator up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give out before I reached her floor. I walked down the hallway, counting door numbers. 314, 316, 318. I stood outside that door for a full minute, suddenly terrified of what I'd find on the other side. Finally, I knocked. No answer. I pushed the door open slowly and stepped inside. And there was my Alessia. But it wasn't her. It couldn't be her. This person in the bed was completely bald, skin the color of old wax, body so thin I could see every bone through the hospital gown. There were tubes everywhere, machines beeping and whirring, monitors showing numbers and graphs I didn't understand. She was either sleeping or unconscious, I couldn't tell which. I moved to the chair beside her bed, like I was moving through water. Everything slow and dreamlike and horrible. I took her hand, so cold, so fragile, like holding a baby bird, and I started to cry. Not the angry tears I'd cried in the nursing home, but grief so pure and deep It felt like it would tear me in half. After a moment, her eyes opened. It took her several seconds to focus on me, and when she did, I saw terror flash across her ravaged face. She tried to speak, tried to tell me I shouldn't be there, tried to ask how I'd found her. Her voice was so weak, I could barely hear it over the machines. I put my hand on her bald head, felt the fragile skull beneath my palm, and I asked her why. Why had she hidden this from me? Why had she robbed me of these last months with her? Why had she thought I'd want to be protected from this, when all I'd ever wanted was to take care of her? She cried then, tears running down her sunken cheeks, and she tried to explain. She told me about watching what my mother's death had done to me, about the nightmares she still had of seeing me collapse in that hospital corridor. She said she couldn't do that to me again, couldn't be the cause of that kind of pain. She'd rather have me hate her and stay safe in the nursing home, taken care of and protected, than have me watch her die and maybe die myself from the grief. We held each other in that sterile hospital room and cried like we hadn't cried since my daughter, her mother, died all those years ago. She told me about the loneliness of the treatments, about how terrifying it was to go through the chemotherapy sessions alone, about lying awake at night, wishing she could call me, but knowing she couldn't, knowing she'd made this choice and had to stick with it, even though it was killing her in a different way than the cancer was. The doctors came in later and asked to speak with me. They were very kind, but very direct. The situation was terminal, they said. Weeks, possibly days. They told me to prepare myself, asked if Alessia had a will, discussed hospice care and end-of-life decisions. I listened to them talk about my granddaughter like she was already dead, and something inside me refused to accept it. That night, after the doctors left, after Alessia fell into an exhausted sleep, I prayed for the first time in months. But I didn't pray to God. I prayed to Carlo Acutis, the teenage saint who'd come to my room and shown me the truth. I begged him to intervene, to perform the kind of miracle he was known for, to give my granddaughter more time. Something impossible started to happen. 3 days after I arrived, they did routine blood work to check Alessia's tumor markers. The results showed a 30% drop. The doctors said it was impossible, must be a lab error. They ran the tests again. Same results. Over the next 2 weeks, the progression of the cancer stopped completely. Just stopped. The tumors weren't shrinking, not yet, but they weren't growing either. The doctors kept using words like unprecedented and inexplicable and anomalous. Dr. Conti would stare at the scans and test results like they were written in a language she'd never seen before. I knew what it was. I knew, even if the doctors couldn't see it, even if they had to explain it with their medical terms and scientific reasoning. This was Carlo Acutis, the saint who'd loved the Eucharist and believed in miracles, reaching across the boundary between heaven and earth to touch my granddaughter's broken body. I stayed with Alessia every single day. I slept in the chair next to her bed, my old bones aching from the awkward position, but I didn't care. I was there when she woke up from nightmares. There when the pain got so bad she couldn't speak. There when the nurses came to change her IV or give her medication. I read to her from books she loved when she was little. I hummed the lullabies I used to sing to her as a child. I held her hand through the worst of it. The nursing home called several times, asking when I'd be back. I told them I wouldn't be back. I told them to donate my things to whoever needed them. That room, that building, that whole situation belonged to a different person. The bitter, angry woman I'd been before I learned the truth. I wasn't her anymore. Alessia was discharged in December, just last month. She's still in palliative care, still on treatment, but she's stable. Stable. That word is everything. The doctors still can't fully explain it. They talk about unexpected responses and atypical progression. But they're starting to use another word too, very carefully, like they're afraid to jinx it. Remission. We came back to Perugia together, back to our house, my grandmother's house. Alessia's bedroom is right next to mine now. I moved her bed there myself, with the help of a neighbor, because I want to be close to her at night. I want to hear if she needs me. I want to be there. I take care of her the way I took care of her when she was 6 years old and newly motherless. I help her with the wig she wears now, because her hair is just starting to grow back in soft patches. I make the soups and broths that she can keep down when the nausea is bad. I hold her hand during the pain episodes that still come, but less frequently now. I remind her to take her medications. I go with her to every doctor's appointment, every scan, every blood test. We don't talk much about those 4 months we spent apart. There's nothing to say, really. We both made choices out of love that looked like cruelty or weakness from the outside. She tried to protect me by pushing me away. I responded with anger instead of investigating. We were both wrong, both trying to control pain we couldn't control, both so afraid of losing each other that we nearly lost each other anyway. Every week, when Alessia has the strength, we drive to Assisi together. It's about an hour from Perugia, winding roads through the Umbrian hills. We go to the tomb of Carlo Acutis in the sanctuary of the spoliation. We bring flowers, usually roses, sometimes lilies. We light candles. We kneel on those cold stone floors and pray. I thank him every time. Thank you for coming to me that night. Thank you for telling me the truth when no one else would. Thank you for giving me the chance to be with my granddaughter instead of dying separated by misunderstanding. Thank you for the miracle that's happening in her body right now, the inexplicable stabilization that has doctors shaking their heads in wonder. Alessia prays too. She thanks him for giving her grandmother back, for making me understand. She prays for strength, for healing, for more time. Not forever, not even for decades necessarily. Just time. Time to finish the projects she's working on. Time to reconcile with old friends. Time to sit in the garden with me on spring mornings. Time to make peace with dying when it comes. Today, 3 months after our reunion in that hospital room, she's still fighting. The latest scans show what the doctors are calling cautious optimism. The tumors are stable, some of them slightly smaller. Her CA-125 levels are the lowest they've been since diagnosis. She's gained back 7 kilograms. Her color is better. She can walk to the end of our street and back without getting completely exhausted. Is it a miracle? The doctors won't say that word. They'll say unexpected response. They'll say anomalous case. They'll say we need more time to evaluate. But I'll say it. Miracle. This is a miracle wrought by a teenage saint who died of cancer himself, who knew suffering, who understood both the physical agony and the terrible isolation of serious illness. Before I finish this story, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? I'd love to know where this message is reaching. Leave a comment with your city or country. And if this story has touched you in any way, please subscribe. It helps more than you know, and it means these experiences can reach others who might need to hear them. I'm telling you all this because I want you to know something important. If you're someone who's been abandoned, or who thinks you've been abandoned, I'm begging you to look deeper. Ask the hard questions. Demand the truth. Don't do what I did and spend months building walls of anger and bitterness without investigating why someone might have pushed you away. Sometimes what looks like cold rejection is actually desperate love trying to protect you in the wrong way. Sometimes what feels like abandonment is actually sacrifice. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who are trying hardest not to hurt us at all. Alessia almost died alone because she loved me too much to let me watch her suffer. I almost died of rage and grief because I didn't understand that her cruelty was actually the most terrible kind of kindness. We were both building walls when what we needed were bridges. We were both so focused on protecting each other from pain that we created worse pain instead. Carlo Acutis tore down those walls with truth. Painful truth, terrible truth, but truth that healed even as it burned. He didn't let us die separated by misunderstanding. He came to me in the middle of the night and told me what I needed to know, gave me the chance to act on it, to make things right before it was too late. You might not get a vision like I did. Most people don't. But you don't need a mystical intervention to pick up the phone, to get on a train, to knock on a door. You don't need a saint to appear in your bedroom to make you ask the questions you've been afraid to ask. If someone you love has pushed you away, find out why. Really find out. Don't accept surface explanations. Don't assume you know their motives. People are complicated, and fear makes us do inexplicable things. Love makes us do even worse things sometimes. Maybe there's someone on the other side of your anger who's dying and can't tell you. Maybe there's someone who made a choice to protect you that looks like betrayal from where you're standing. Maybe there's someone who needs you desperately but has convinced themselves you're better off without them. Make the call. Take the trip. Ask the questions. Demand the truth. Because I'm 81 years old, and I'm learning that it's never too late to choose love over pride, forgiveness over righteousness, truth over comfortable lies. My granddaughter is alive today. Against all odds, against every medical prediction, she's alive and fighting, and slowly, inexplicably, getting better. We're together in our house, the house that's held 4 generations of our family, and we're making new memories, even as we treasure the old ones. We embroider together now. Her hands still weak, but getting stronger. My hands arthritic, but steady enough to guide hers. We sit in the garden on warm days and watch the roses bloom. We cook Sunday dinners together, her chopping vegetables while I stir the sauce, both of us moving around the kitchen in the dance we've perfected over 25 years. She's designing again, too, taking on small projects, working a few hours a day when her energy allows. Last week she showed me plans for a children's library in Perugia, all light and color and spaces designed to make kids fall in love with books. Her eyes were bright when she talked about it, brighter than they've been in months. She said if she gets to build this one last thing, she'll be satisfied. But I don't think it'll be her last thing. I think she's going to build many more, because that's what miracles are, aren't they? Not just the impossible medical recoveries, though those matter, but the miracle of reconciliation, of truth revealed in time, of love that survives even the worst misunderstandings, the miracle of second chances, of walls torn down, of time given back to us when we thought it was gone forever. Carlo Acutis is still just blessed, not yet canonized as a saint. But in my heart, he's already there. He's the saint of difficult truths, of love that intervenes even when it's painful, of young people who die too soon, but leave ripples of grace that spread far beyond their short lives. There's a prayer card I keep in my pocket now, one I picked up from his tomb in Assisi. It has his picture on it, that sweet young face with the slightly mischievous smile. On the back it says one of his famous quotes, the one everyone knows. To be always close to Jesus, that's my life plan. That's what I'm trying to do now, in whatever time I have left. Stay close to Jesus through Carlo, through the Eucharist he loved so much, through the daily practice of choosing love over fear, truth over comfortable deception, forgiveness over grudges. I don't know how long Alessia will be with me. The doctors can't promise anything, and I've learned not to demand guarantees from a universe that doesn't give them. She might have years, she might have months, but we have today, and we had yesterday, and God willing we'll have tomorrow. That's more than we had 4 months ago when we were separated by walls of our own construction. Every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is thank God and Carlo Acutis for one more day. Then I get up, make coffee the way Alessia likes it, and bring it to her room. Sometimes she's already awake, sitting up in bed with her laptop, working on designs. Sometimes she's still sleeping, and I sit in the chair watching her breathe. This precious granddaughter who I raised, and who almost died alone to spare me pain. I tell her I love her every single day now, multiple times a day. I don't care if it's repetitive or excessive. We wasted 4 months not saying it. 4 months when she was suffering and I was raging, and neither of us was honest about what we really felt. I won't waste another minute.